Hello, and welcome to Godless Bitches. This is your host, Beth Presswood, here with Tracie Harris.
Howdy.
And Jen Peeples.
Hi, everybody.
The Godless Bitches is sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit group dedicated to the separation of church and state and the promotion of positive atheist culture. You can contact GB at bitches at atheist-community.org. So how is everybody today?
Oh, I'm doing well. My neighbor just decided to mow his grass right as we started the podcast. So if anybody hears a lawnmower in the background, it's not mine. I apologize, but you know.
Well, that's just inconsiderate. You know, he should know when you're doing Godless Bitches. Whatever.
I know. I'll run out and tell him, hey, don't you know the bitches are recording? Shut the fuck up, dude.
He'll be like, well, there's one bitch around here.
Yeah. It's my version of get off my lawn.
So, how was everybody's American Atheist Convention?
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was an awesome convention. Loved it.
Yeah, it was really great. So, for people out there who don't know, the American Atheist 50th Anniversary Convention was in Austin. Woo! It came back home where Madeline started it, and it was just wonderful. There was 900 or more people here for it. It was just great. And we did, I was on a Women in Atheism panel with Greta and Ophelia Benson and Amy Davis Roth. And then we had a live Godless Bitches. Now, it was at the very, very end. So attendance was more sparse than for other things. But it was still good. And not sure about the recording. I'm certain I can talk to Dave or somebody and get it out there for all you listeners. But might take a while. So just hold your horses.
Well, see, and that's an incentive to show up at the next convention.
Exactly.
And you can see it live and in person.
And we did questions. That's
that's right.
Primarily what we did. So
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. It was little difficulty. It started with some of the questions, but then they came, and a lot of people there didn't even know what we were. They just go to everything that's on the convention list and found out about GB. So hoping we get a lot of new listeners.
How can people not know who we are?
I know. So weird. So weird.
Crazy world.
I know. We get so many letters from people saying, you people are famous. I'm confused. I don't know how people can not know who we are when people tell us we're so famous.
I wonder how I can walk down the street sometimes.
I know.
Oh, yeah. So that was awesome. So we've got a bunch of news this week and a bunch of things we can analyze. But number one thing, emergency contraception over the counter to all ages.
Yes. Yes. Excellent win.
Yeah. So the story is that emergency contraception was put under this ridiculous rule. The FDA actually said that it should be for all ages over the counter a long time ago. They recommended that because that's what the science says. But Kathleen Sebelius and Obama put it for 17 and over only. And there was absolutely no reason. No other drug had ever been done like that before. No precedent for this whatsoever. But it was an election year. And so they had to do that, or people would be saying Obama wants 10-year-old girls to have sex and take birth control. And but a judge overturned that, saying that there was absolutely no reason. It was totally unreasonable. And yeah, so, and I really think that's what they were going for. To tell you the truth, I mean, I don't necessarily think of, conspiracy theories, but they blocked that because it was an election year, and I think that Sebelius and them are probably fine with it. I'm not sure that anybody's going to appeal over it or anything like that, but yeah, this is what the science says.
Yeah, it's safer than Tylenol. And I think I'm getting a little bit of an echo here.
Yeah.
It's lots of things are safer than Tylenol. Tylenol's actually a horrible drug.
It's getting hard to buy Tylenol, just as an aside.
Really?
Yeah, my husband was trying to find some in the store the other day, and he couldn't get it at H-E-B.
Huh. But yeah, it's safer than aspirin, too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
One of the things that people were saying is it's never been tested in these girls. And, you know, you don't have to test things in every single age group. There's lots of things that have never been tested in every single age group that could potentially take it. But there's no reason to think there's differences. And the data says that, you know, there's no differences. There's just never been formal tests. And, you know, what's more dangerous? Pregnancy is many, many, many times more dangerous than any hormone.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's legal now, right? So, I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll see if people start dropping dead. We'll see if, you know, child rapists are getting away with, you know, loads and loads of time. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if all these predictions about the end of the world happen because of now you can get it. So let's find out if it was just a bunch of scary hype or if what they said would happen will happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and I mean, I guess, you know, two comments here. I mean, first of all, regrettably, you know, anti-choice activists have done a lot of testing of the effects of pregnancy in very young girls.
Yeah.
You know, by denying them access to reproductive health services and including abortion. And second, Guttmacher Institute has published a study on its website that demonstrates that young girls, I mean, basically sexual activity among teens has remained relatively constant over the last 10 years or so, but pregnancy rates have dropped in almost every state except for states like, you know, Mississippi and Texas that have abstinence-only education and have limited access to reproductive health services for girls. But the availability of contraception does not increase teenagers' willingness to engage in sexual activity. And, you know, the evidence is right there in the report from Guttmacher Institute.
Yeah, there's virtually no way. People are like, oh, they'll have sex now. No, there's virtually no way to stop or increase people having sex. They have it or they don't based on their emotional factors and their physical factors and things like that. You really can't stop them. It's just ridiculous to think that, you know, this emergency contraception being available, which it's going to be in the pharmacy behind the counter. It's going to cost $50. It's not going to influence their decision to have sex in the back of the car right then. It's just not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the thing about the rapists will use this. Do they not think rapists use condoms too?
Yeah.
Or pull out or almost...
Hey, only the considerate ones use condoms.
Well, but...
Sarcasm there.
Yeah. That's the thing. And most child sexual abuse isn't intercourse anyway.
Yeah.
You know, rapists, if they are worried about pregnancy getting them caught, there's plenty of other things they can do besides go buy a $50 pill and make a girl take it.
Yeah.
And that also rests on the assumption that pregnancy is a method of discovering sexual abuse.
Yeah, and I think that pregnancy is a pretty rare method of discovering sexual abuse. I mean, a lot of and if we look just at the Catholic Church's, you know, pedophile priest scandal, you know, you say pedophile priests, and a lot of people think, oh, it was the altar boys and stuff, and it wasn't just boys. There were a lot of young girls that were molested as well, and that's been going on for a long time. And among those young girls, you know, the families didn't want to accuse a priest, and so they basically slut-shamed the girl. She had the baby, they gave it up for adoption, and basically the abuser got off scot-free.
Yeah.
So, if we look at that as kind of the dynamic for how, especially very religious and conservative families handle something like this, a pregnancy is unlikely to result in an abuser getting caught.
Yeah, it really is. And a lot of these girls you hear about, oh, a 10-year-old girl got pregnant, da-da-da. A lot of times they never find the man that impregnated her.
Or they find out that it was a male family member or a male an adult male living in the household with the girl.
Right.
So close enough to a family member that, nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, they have to, at a certain age and stuff, the doctor would have to report it and stuff, and there would have to be some investigation, but those can be stonewalled pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. All right. So I think that's about all on the Plan B decision, since it's awesome.
It is. But of course, the right-wingers are, and I shouldn't just say right-wingers, but the anti-choice crowd is now hailing it as, oh, they've got the abortion pill out there. So.
Oh, yeah. And there is absolutely no evidence that Plan B could block implantation, which wouldn't even be an abortion, but still, it doesn't even make logical scientific sense. It really doesn't. So, whatever. All right. Did we lose Tracie? Is Tracie still there?
I still show her.
Yeah. I had myself muted for a minute.
Okay, that's fine. So the second story I have is from
sorry.
is from News Channel 11. This is Johnson City, Tennessee. Man drove 90 miles an hour with genitals hanging out the window. This was the vice mayor of Mount Carmel, Tennessee. And apparently they've actually been trying to catch him for quite a while. He had been reported, women had reported that a man had been masturbating at them while driving his car and hanging his junk out the window. And one woman finally was able to jot down the license plate number, and they finally found this dude that's been terrorizing the highways of Tennessee with his dick for years.
And who was it?
Well, my computer is not wanting to work right now. Oh, William Blakely, the vice mayor of Mount Carmel, Tennessee.
What do you know?
So, witness Deborah Sturgill said, I was scared that I was going to wreck. He was going to cause me to wreck.
I want video.
I know. This sounds crazy.
Well, how do you drive?
I don't.
Well, I'm trying to get a mental image of this, and it's like, what did he just throw it over his shoulder, or how exactly?
I guess I had considered that it could be.
Well, cruise control for one. Somebody brought that up on my thread. You definitely got to have cruise control.
Yeah, I mean, was it like making his legs fall asleep because it was so heavy and he had to pick it up and
I really don't know, but here I got to read these quotes. So Deanna Dykes, another witness, said he was waving, grabbed his shirt and kind of pulled it up. After the waving, it turned into a lot of beeping, him grabbing his chest area and clasping his hands together. He was taking his hand, wetting his mouth, and masturbating. At over 90 miles per hour, he had his penis out the window. He was masturbating, and that's when it got really, really bad. I wouldn't look over anymore, and I wrote his tag number down on my hand, which I believe he noticed, and he exited very quickly.
Like, he didn't think somebody would do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're in a vehicle with a license number, and it doesn't dawn on him that, holy crap, somebody could take my license number and identify my vehicle. Like, what is with this dude? And
the cop went on. It went on for so long, and nobody's addressed it. He said, referring to the dozens of phone calls the department has received over the course of 3 or 4 years, she said, related to Blakely's behavior. Ages of the alleged victims range from 16 to 65.
God. And imagine if there was children in the car, and it's just like you just have to wonder, like in the age of cell phones that take pictures, and like, how do you think you're going to get away with that?
Yeah, I don't know, but he was charged with indecent exposure and reckless endangerment.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that is reckless. That's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I wish there had been video, because I mean that'd make an awesome YouTube.
That's
clip.
1 million hits on YouTube, guaranteed.
Oh yeah. I mean, can you imagine if you had video of that? You could make a ton of money on YouTube.
And now people are going to get on us for encouraging guys to do this so that they can get videoed. Yeah. Like get your buddy to drive alongside, get some video. No, it's not funny unless it's, impromptu and someone that takes the video thinks that it's worth videotaping, and then post your license number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually saw a penis on the Weather Channel once. They were out there live at a hurricane or a storm or something, and one guy noticed they were filming, so he just dropped his drawers and wagged it around and then ran away.
Yeah.
Wow. And so this was live, so they didn't have a chance to.
Yeah, they didn't have a chance. So it was everything. Wow. What is it? I mean, I know you're proud of it if you got it, but nobody wants to see it.
Yeah, and I want to say, we actually had a discussion about, believe it or not, this on my wall. Mm-hmm. Not this article, but just the idea of masturbating in public. And one of the things that I called out is there's a big difference between just sitting around masturbating and pushing that onto somebody else, like making that person the focus, following them, targeting them as like somebody that you're trying to force to watch you. Or, when you start treating people publicly like you can make them associate you and make them look at you and you can't do that. That's harassing someone.
No, that's aggressive.
It's not the same. It has nothing to do with whether. I mean, basically I was just like, if they passed decency laws that said people could masturbate in public, I don't care. I really couldn't give a crap if people masturbate in public. But when you start targeting people as your objects to masturbate to, they have a right to say no. And to say, I don't want to be the thing that you're masturbating to, so please go leave me alone. If you want to look at someone attractive and you want to go home and masturbate to that or go somewhere else or think about, but you can't just go and leer at somebody and force them to look at you. And you can't, they have a right to be out in public too, and they have a right to be out in public, unimposed upon by your bullshit. So you do what you want to do, and if somebody cares what you're doing, it doesn't impact them, that's one thing. But if you're doing crap and you are actually trying to involve them, then what they want and what they think matters. So you don't get to try to involve another person and then pretend that you're not imposing on them. That's crap.
Oh, yeah. It's not like he was just jacking it in the car.
Right.
He found women and then thrust his penis out the window at them.
And I'll just personally, I've had that happen to me twice by men I don't know. So I don't know what gives with that, but it is so not cool. And that's the thing. What I'm saying, I'm not so uptight that I wouldn't even give a crap if somebody was just standing on a street corner masturbating. It doesn't bother me at all. But don't involve me in that shit when I haven't agreed to it. If you want me involved, you have to come up and say, hey, would you like to be involved in this? Here's what I want to do. And if I say no, then you better go find somebody else.
All right.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that it also applies to other behavior, not necessarily masturbating at someone, I think, is something that most people can grasp as being very inappropriate.
It's aggressive.
If the person has not consented to being the object of this. But that goes for other behavior too.
Absolutely.
So, publicly leering at someone or something like that, it's not appropriate. If someone says, hey, stop that, I don't like you doing that to me, then you have to stop. What they ask you to do, you have to respect that in public.
Yeah, if you're not doing it to them, that's another thing. If you're just not doing something they don't like and it really is not like aimed at them and it's not something impacting them, that's one thing. But when you are making them a focus of it, you can't sit there and pretend that they're not involved.
Yeah. And I guess the thing that would kind of connect the dots for a lot of people that maybe don't quite understand this, think about a street preacher. If they're standing on the corner and they're just preaching, they have the right to do that. And, you can walk past them and ignore it and it's not involving you. But when they start following you and preaching at you, and you tell them, hey, leave me alone, and they don't, they've clearly crossed the line. You're not allowed to do that to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, are we done with Blakely and his junk?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to know how he got it out the window. I mean,
I'm baffled. I'd love to see it. I mean, not that I would love to see it, but I just out of curiosity, I would love to see how he managed it.
Yeah.
I don't even know. That's strange. All right, so quick note, there is a Camp Quest Texas fundraiser. Aaron Ra, David Smalley, and Matt Dillahunty are competing. And you know who all y'all out there should give to if you're going to give? Do I even need to say it? The Dillahunty team. Matt will do something appropriately humiliating. If he reaches his $5,000 goal faster than the others. That has not been determined yet. You can send
suggestions. I was going to ask if he'll masturbate in public.
He has limits.
I thought you were just going to say he has. No, we're planning something he hasn't done before.
So it's at youcaring.com and there's a bunch of slashes and crap after that. So you can go to Matt's page and my Facebook page, and I'll post it on the Godless Bitches Facebook page and the Atheist Experience Facebook page and whatnot. So, yes, money for Camp Quest. It's going to be awesome. Awesome. Send kids to camp.
That is a good cause.
All right. So, I don't even know. I was caught off guard by that. So, let's see. Did we want to talk about that article?
We talk about anything you like.
The hookup article.
Yeah, I'm just so. I mean, we'd have to. We will probably be sitting around for 15, 20 or more minutes on this. There's so much wrong in it.
Before you even start, can I just preface it with I gotta say, because everything we talk about I think is going to demonstrate this, but whenever there's an article that talks about how you shouldn't make things and relationships all about sex, it's almost like an inevitable path that you're going to run down that is going to make the relationship all about sex. They start out saying it's not all about sex, and then they make sex this hyper-focus of everything they say. And it's like, wow, how did you get from it shouldn't be all about sex to making everything you're talking about sex?
Yeah.
They don't get it. Their problem is that they make it about sex. You know what I mean? It's like they're so hyper-focused on sex, and they're saying, why can't I find somebody that'll have a relationship with me that's not hyper-focused on sex? And it's like, well, first you have to quit hyper-focusing on sex.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the first step in finding a partner that's not hyper-fixated on sex, is for you to quit fixating on sex. Because you seem really fixated on it.
Well, and you know, this is not to say there's anything wrong with just going out and having sex with, you know, finding people that you want sex with.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. This is strictly an observation I make about those people who write and say, I want a committed married relationship and I don't want something that's all about sex. And then they write an article and it's like sex.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I agree.
I mean, how do you not understand how you're not finding a life partner?
Yeah.
You're not finding a life partner because your head is like just flaming sex.
Because you're out there pursuing sex like you're just somebody pursuing sex.
If you're trying to catch trout, you don't fish with, salmon bait. I mean, there's different, if you have different goals require different strategies, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with having a goal of casual sex, and there's nothing wrong with whatever kind of open marriages, whatever you want to have is fine. But there's a different strategy involved for those things. If you want an open marriage, then you don't go looking for somebody who wants a commitment. You go looking for somebody who wants an open marriage. If you're looking for casual sex, you don't go looking for somebody looking for a relationship. You have to have a strategy that hooks you up with people that are interested in casual sex. You have to have different strategies to find the type of person you're looking for. And if the type of person you're looking for is somebody that's not into casual sex, that's looking for a relationship, you don't go fishing in the pool of casual sex.
Right. And you don't go telling people that you want to hook up with that, oh yeah, I'm just into casual sex. But if you do, and they take you at your word, you can't get upset later on because they're not wanting to settle down into a monogamous relationship. Because,
correct,
you said, hey, I just want casual sex. So, you have to go in and be honest about what you want in a relationship, and look in the right places to find what you claim to be looking for.
There is just so much wrong. Just to give a rundown on what this article is, though, Beth, go ahead and give the synopsis of it. I'm going to look for this quote.
All right, this is in Huffington Post, which right there probably tells you the quality of it, by Susan Rosenzweig, and it's called "Please Stop Hooking Up with My Future Husband." So she starts off talking about how she's been single for a long time, and then says, so it's completely possible that my future husband is still married to his first or third wife, but what I hadn't considered until recently was that he might not be married, but simply hooking up with a temporary fix. Now, by hookup, I'm referring instead to someone who you have sex with on a semi-regular basis with no strings attached, which might seem harmless in theory, but is it really? So then she goes on that she doesn't believe women are being 100% honest with themselves about how they really feel about casual sex, and that we're denying our physiology that bonds us to another human being. Not to be crude, but let's face it, men leave their DNA inside us. How can you expect not to be affected by that? Well, first off, you cannot be affected by that by using a condom.
Yeah.
But that's just stupid. The fact that semen gets deposited means we're more affected by sex. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, the other side of that is that, you could be talking to a guy and say, oh, you left part of yourself inside her. How can you not be affected by that? And
I'm pretty sure that when he pulls out, he's got a lot of her on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can he not be affected by that? Well, he can be. That's why he needs to go get a towel.
Yeah.
Okay. Then she goes, and I think the abundance of casual sex has weakened the motivation of many men to settle down. As she talks about her father, who flirts all the time, he admits that had sex been this easy to get back in his day, he probably never would have gotten married. So that's just, don't buy the cow if you can get the milk for free.
Right, but look at it. I mean, look at what she's saying here, though, right? I mean, she's basically saying that in her view, she's taking this guy at his word, right? She's saying that she's using him as support for her argument. And her argument, and the way he fits in, is marriage is about sex. If I can get sex somewhere else, why should I get married? Well, if you think marriage is sex, and you think those two things are synonymous, then I guess there is no reason to get married if you can get sex. But if you think a life partnership might be more than screwing each other, then there's something there that's not going to be had with just sex. So once again, she's demonstrating that in her head, she is connecting sex and marriage. And it's like, if you think that this life partnership is going to be based on sex, you're shopping for sex, but you're saying you want commitment, but your strategy is sex. That doesn't work. If you're looking at this and you're saying, to me, marriage is sex, and men get married because they want sex, then you're going to be selling freaking sex and wondering why you're not getting committed. It's not hard. It's hard when you're in that arena because you don't see it. It's like the forest for the trees. But she just finished basically making an argument with her, I don't know if you said that was her stepdad or whatever, but that this guy, and she believes him, wouldn't be getting married if he could have had casual sex. And she's saying all these guys aren't going to get married because they can get casual sex. And it's like, well, are you basically saying that if they couldn't get sex, they'd marry you for sex? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you want someone to marry you for sex? Because let me tell you what happens when they get cancer. The sex goes right out the window. Let me tell you what happens when they get impotent, when they have to have prostate surgery, come on. This is a life partnership, and your priorities and the things that you're shopping for have got to be more serious than sex. And I'm not down on sex at all. And it's enjoyable. It's a good part of a relationship. But believe me, if you're looking at this like the only thing I've got to lure him into this marriage is sex, you're shopping all wrong for a commitment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
That man shouldn't have gotten married. The fact that he was forced into marriage is not a good thing. I mean,
who wants somebody to say I married you because you wouldn't have sex with me otherwise? That's the whole reason I'm with you. What an insult to you as a human being that, your vagina is what I'm in it for. And I don't even, if the rest of you were available and I could get the vagina from somebody else, I wouldn't have married you. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. And I read that paragraph and it's like, I can't believe she's talking about her parents like that. Who wants to think that their parents are only married because it's the only way they could, have sex?
What man says that to his child about their mother?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
I wouldn't even have married her except I couldn't get it from her. Otherwise.
Yeah.
That is definitely creepy.
Yeah.
So she goes on. This is right after the other section. I can tell you in hindsight, he's oh so grateful that he was incentivized to settle down and have a family, especially now that he's retired, diabetic, and would be lost without my mom.
Great. So now she gets to be the caretaker.
Yeah.
So he got a nursemaid and someone to have sex with.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
So, all those years in between when he had to put up with her talking and her personality and her thoughts and her feelings, oh my God. Yeah, he wasn't too bad for that, but it was all worth it because he got some pussy and somebody to look after him and make sure his diabetes doesn't get out of control.
Yeah.
I guess so. So she tells the story about her friends that were just in a casual sex relationship and the woman wanted more. So she ended it and said, if there's really something between you, he'll realize it. And when he's ready, he'll want to work for more. If there isn't, you'll save yourself even more heartache down the road. So she walked away. And he eventually came back to her, and they're getting married.
Okay, now here's the thing I wanted to say about that. First of all, her advice to her friend is not bad advice.
Yeah, I agree.
And the reason for that is, if you're in a relationship and you get into it, like Jen was saying, for casual sex, but you start falling for somebody, and you know that they're not going to give you that, and it's just hurting you that you want a relationship and you know that's not what they want and that's not what they promised you, then the right thing to do is to leave. Don't hurt yourself.
Yep.
And don't sit there and torture them for not wanting what you want. I mean, the thing to do is to leave in that situation. That is correct. And the person may miss you and they may come looking for you. Or they may go on and do what they're going to do, right? But you, for your own well-being, you should leave. If what you want changes and you know this isn't where you're going to get it, then yeah, leaving is a good thing. So I agree with what she's telling her friend. What really got to me, though, about what she says about her friend, let me see if I can find this again, because the story goes that he at first he goes and he dates all these other women, but then he comes looking for her again. And what she says about that is, let's see, only this time Jen was smarter. She made Dave work and earn her time, and her body. So here we go again with the sex. So instead of her just simply saying, this is just hurting you to be in a relationship where you got into it for casual sex. Now you like the guy, but he doesn't share your feelings. He doesn't share the goals that you've now started to feel like you want. And so the best thing for you to do is leave. What she's basically saying is, you step over there, and then it's like a tease because he can't have it anymore. And then when he starts wanting it, and you make him work for it, you make him jump through hoops to get that pussy, right? So what she's basically doing again is, it's all about the sex. You lure him back with the sex he can't have. And it's like, man, that is such the wrong perspective. It is such a wrong perspective when you're searching for relationship and commitment. It's not about him coming back because he wants the sex that he's missing from you, right? It's about, he's supposed to think, hey, I liked her. I can get this sex. I'm getting sex from lots of people, and I can get sex anywhere. I can get sex from her, sex from it, but I like that woman more than other women. I get along with her better. I have more fun with her. That's what he needs to miss, not your freaking vagina.
Well, right? and interestingly enough, this story and the point you just made actually blows up her whole theory about, if men are getting all the sex they want for free, then they won't, commit.
Yeah. He was getting lots of sex from other women, and he went back to her friend because there was something about her that was better than just nookie, right? And I mean, that's the whole point. This girl is writing the story saying, hold off on the sex, but her whole perspective seems to be so that he'll come running and drooling for the sex. And that's where she's screwing up. That's where she's fishing. She's fishing in the pool of sex for commitment, and it's not going to be there. I mean, I'm not going to say that like 100% of the time you're never going to be hooked up and it's just going to click, right? You can do that. I call that the lotto method of dating, right? You just hop into bed with people and hope you get married one day. It's like, it doesn't work that way. When you're looking for a life partner, you need to be prepared. You need to have that resume available. You need to know what it is, who you are, what works with you, what doesn't work with you, what's compatible with you, what kind of things you look for, what are your priorities. It can't just be about, who's good looking and who do I have a good time with and who do I have the best sex with. That is not that's fine if you're out for a good time and sex and fun. But when you're looking at, I need somebody that's going to be able to help me pay the bills. I need somebody that when a real problem arises, we have to sit down and talk about it. I can communicate with them, and we're going to be able to argue effectively without getting, vicious toward one another. We have to be able to, sometimes that person's going to have a problem and not be able to contribute. I'm going to have to pull their weight. Other times I'm going to have a problem and I'm not going to be around and I'm not going to have the resources. They're going to have to pull some weight for me. I mean, it is not a picnic. Right? I mean, it is not a sex picnic. And that's what she seems to be painting, is this idea that, you get married and it's like all rosy romance and sex. And you need him to want sex to want you. And that is so wrong. It is just so wrong. I don't even know where to begin. But it's especially wrong when the point you're trying to make is that it shouldn't be all about the sex. And then you turn around and it's all about the sex.
Oh, yeah. And then next in the article is, I believe that if you give yourself to anyone who shows you the least bit of attention, you lower your value. So, your value is in your pussy and what you can get people to do for that.
Yeah, charge for it, basically. Make them pay. Not in money, because, that would be a prostitute. But, make sure that he has to, give you something for it. It's got to be a fair trade, right? You barter that thing away, is what she's saying. And it's really disgusting. I mean, I can't tell you how grotesque this really is. As a person married 13 years, this is grotesque. And as somebody that's gone through some really rough times, with my own marriage and had, I've talked on TAE before about David having cancer and all that. And when I see somebody, talking about marriage so glibly and talking about these like completely shallow concepts behind it and buying into such crap about what a life partnership entails. And it's just like, boy, you have no idea. You are still in this crazy dating phase in your head. And that's why you're not finding the commitment. Not because there's not men out there who are good men, who are committed men, who are, and I'm not saying that men that don't commit aren't good, but there are honest, committed men who are looking to settle down, and it's like, it depends on what you're willing to settle for. I read this article by a woman who was giving this marital advice, and I remember one of the things that she had listed that was like in her book, right? Now, she wasn't recommending what other people should want or not want, but in her book, a complete non-negotiable attribute of a man she wants to marry, he can't be bald. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? You're kidding, right? So what happens if you get married and then the guy starts to lose his hair? What's your that's a divorce?
Yeah, really. Yeah, what's your plan here?
And the other thing, though, is, so you meet this guy and he's everything that you could possibly want in a 50-year life partner. He's solid. He's hardworking. He's honest. He's good-hearted. He's kind. Loves children. Loves animals. And you're gonna tell him, gosh, sorry, it's gotta have hair. I couldn't. I was like, this is a person giving people marital advice. I cannot believe this. This is not marriage advice. This is dating advice. This is find somebody you think is attractive. This is not find somebody that's going to be a good worker, who's going to be with you and help you.
Speak up that if sex is important to you, and it is important to a lot of people, sexual compatibility is important. Yes, it's very important to note that sex can go away due to disabilities and things. But having a baseline sexual compatibility as one of your non-negotiables, and certain physical characteristics might fall into that, I think that's okay. But you got to frame it like
people
that.
People can make whatever criteria they want to make. I mean, I'm not taking, I'm not taking too much issue with criteria, but what I will say is that when you're setting those criteria, understand what you're weeding out and what you're not. Get that some sacrifices are going to come when you say this is a non-negotiable thing. That means that you find somebody that has everything else you want, but not this. That's a no. And if sexual compatibility is something that you would nix a person for, then I think that's fair to say, I couldn't do this. But then you have to ask yourself, what happens if that person becomes really medically impotent and there's nothing we can do?
Yeah, and
I mean, would I stay married? Because if I say it's non-negotiable, the answer is no.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah. There's, other things opening up the marriage and stuff, and people have got to talk about that. But
sure, okay.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing, you talk about sexual compatibility. I don't know of any way to discover if you're sexually compatible with someone other than having sex.
Yeah.
And so, if you're withholding sex from someone until you invest in the relationship, and then you find out you're not sexually compatible, now you've kind of wasted a whole bunch of your time on somebody, if that's a non-negotiable thing for you. And if it, I don't know, I'm kind of with Dan Savage on this. You got to kind of explore that early on in a relationship to find out if this is even going to work for you.
Yeah, well, I was getting to that. The thing is, this woman, she writes all these little stories, all these little anecdotes, all these little what ifs, What if the fact that you're sleeping with some guy is squashing his motivation and desire to go out and find the true love of his life because his immediate sexual needs are being met? And meanwhile, some other girl is doing the same with the guy you're supposed to be with. So, first of all, you got the soulmate idea, which is just utter complete crap. But she goes through all this, this whole thing. And and then she tells about her boyfriend and how long they waited. And how long do you think that is?
Beth, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, it just went silent, like in the middle.
Oh, I'm sorry. So she goes through all this with these anecdotes and, these ideas and everything. And then she starts talking about her boyfriend. And guess how long they waited?
Well, I already know, so I'm not going to say.
Jen?
I'll go ahead.
3 months.
Yeah.
So all this rigmarole, all this thing, and she's not even writing about waiting till marriage. She's not even writing about 3 months. I mean, 3 months on some people's schedules is super slut. Okay? Yeah. All this rigmarole to say that, 3 months or more is the marker for when you're going to tell if it's, if it's close to a sure thing, if you're invested, if he's a good enough guy. Oh, but if you do it, before 3 months or significantly before 3 months, everything's doomed and you're just going to be meeting someone's sexual needs and they're not going to be on the market and they're not going to be motivated. And all this.
Yeah.
3 months.
Now, I want to say, I want to say, I don't have a problem, especially with people who do get emotionally attached with physical intimacy. I don't have a problem with people saying, I need to wait and get to know somebody a bit before I have sex with them because I get really attached really fast. So I'm going to, if we can go out for a while and kind of get to know each other, and if we get along and everything's working out and we think we're good match, then I'm cool with having sex, but I know myself and I know where my head is at. And if we have sex right away, I'm going to get all, into it. And then if it turns out 3 months from now that we're really not that compatible, I'm going to be really hurt. So I'm not going to do that. Please respect that I need some time. And when I feel comfortable, I feel like I know you well enough and I think things are on a good track, then, okay, then we can make it sexual. To me, that's reasonable. And it's not just reasonable. It's something that I would say it probably is a good idea. I think for most people, if you're in the market for commitment and marriage, it might be a good idea to kind of get to know the person just a bit and check your list of what you want and what you don't want and see if that person is hitting some of those marks before you get into some really close intimacy, because that's when you start really feeling invested sometimes in a person, especially if you're looking for commitment, you're looking for marriage. You don't want to get really, really invested because it gets hard to kind of sort out fact from fiction once your head is all into it. And I think we've all seen people get into relationships where they get real invested up front, and then later when it's not working out, it's real hard for them to make that break and walk away. And that happens, right? It can happen. And you don't want to waste 2 years working on a relationship that was doomed, and you would have known it in 3 months if you would have just held off on getting real invested. And for some people, having sex is getting real invested. So I respect that. But what I don't respect is somebody saying, you should wait because if you give him the milk, he doesn't need to buy the cow. That's bullshit right there. The reason you're waiting isn't because of this weird sexual magic that's going to happen, that's either going to drive him away or drag him into your, clutches, or I don't know what they think sex is, like this magical something. I don't know. It's not. And you don't wait because you're trying to entice him to want you more. You wait. It's not a game. You're not, if you're playing those kind of head games, you're not ready for marriage. You need to wait just until you have had a chance to check somebody out. And to say, I've got this, it's like a job description. You just think of it as life partner with your criteria. Here's my requirements. Here's what we desire. Here's what we'll take. We'll take 3 years of experience over a degree. We'll take, whatever. It's okay to have that job description and say to you, in fact, I encourage people to think about it. What kind of things do you like? What don't you like? What is compatible with you? Know that inside and out, and then start looking for who are the people that are going to be most likely to meet those things on your list. Make it a job description, and respect it when somebody else says, I have my description too, and I like you, but you're not meeting my marks, the things I want. And sometimes that's fair too. It doesn't make somebody a demon just because they don't see you as like their future life partner. But yeah, I'm okay with people waiting. It's just the reasons that she gives are what bugs me, because she takes it and she makes it all about sex. And that's not right.
Yeah. Well, that and this idea that there's somebody out there that you're supposed to be with.
Yeah, she said, I saw her, she has a little line that says, every pot has a lid or something like that. And I thought, man, you should go to Goodwill. There's a whole bin full of lids. And I've got pots in my kitchen. There'll be 3 or 4 lids fit those pots. I don't even know which one it came with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pots come in standard sizes, and you can find lids to fit them.
Yeah. And I was just reading it. I thought that is just remarkably wrong. And clearly she doesn't understand the amount of work that goes into a relationship with someone. It's
Agreed.
not that you've found your lid and it just fits.
Agreed.
It's not 50-50. It's 100-100. Everybody's kicking in 100% every day.
But you know what? Sometimes it's going to be 100-0.
Yeah,
on some
exactly.
days. It really is. Sometimes your partner is not going to be able to be there, and sometimes you're not going to be able to be there. And you have to just say, I'm sticking with it because that's the commitment we made, and I know what you're like on a 100% day, and so I'm staying here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly right. When you go into it with the idea that everybody's going to give 100%, then on those days when you don't have anything to give, you have enough credibility built up that that's okay.
Absolutely.
I was just reading this. I'm like, this is remarkably dense when it comes to
shallow. It's so shallow. It reads like somebody who doesn't know what a relationship, like you're saying, doesn't know what a relationship means, who is writing about it as though it is like The Bachelor, right? Yeah. Like it's this sex thing and this romance, and it's like that's not what it is. It's a freaking job.
So are we surprised that she's single and obsessing about somebody else sleeping with her future husband?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see her 10 years married, and I guarantee you 10 years married, I don't think she would have this attitude. If she hooks up and she's married 10 years into it, she will have a different view. And if she's married and she keeps this view, she won't be there 10 years married.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I just look at this and I'm thinking, you could not probably stay married for 3 years with this attitude. You might be able to keep somebody's attention for 3 years, but if this is her view of what a relationship's like, I don't see it lasting more than 3 years.
All right. Well, we'll keep posted on it, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to give any more time to her. So, another story I have, this is from Salon. There's a Georgia representative, Paul, I think it's Brown. It's spelled a little different, Broun. His quote is, "I don't want to pay for a sex change operation," Brown told town hall attendees, presumably referring to a proposal scrapped by the Obama administration late last month that would have allowed gender reassignment surgeries to be covered under Medicare and Medicaid. "I'm not interested. I like being a boy."
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to give money that's going to help fund making public buildings handicap accessible. I've got legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
It is. It's the classic, I've got mine, fuck you attitude. You know,
What's his political affiliation?
Republican.
Not a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, so I just, things should only be paid for if the person, I don't even get it. I don't want to pay for a sex change operation because I like being a boy. Nothing about any of these other people who, don't like being a boy or a girl or whatever. The list of what should be paid for should be based on what Representative Paul Brown likes or wants. Yeah, that kind of entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to pay for, I don't know, colonoscopies because I don't like cameras shoved up my butt. It's like,
there's a YouTube channel for that.
Yeah.
I just now there's going to be one, waving your wieners out the window and cameras.
And now there's going to be one. How many cameras can I fit up my ass?
Yeah. Don't try this at home, kids.
One man, one camera.
Oh my.
Why do you see the size of my camera?
It has a telephoto lens. Oh my goodness.
These people, they think if something is available, mere availability equates to it being forced upon people.
Well, yeah, because, if sex change operations were available, under Medicaid, we'd all be signing right up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Why not?
Just like if gay marriage becomes legal, all these people are going to be getting gay married. Nobody's going to get straight married anymore. Gay sex is like so much more awesome that everybody's going to be attracted to that. Nobody's going to do it straight anymore.
It is funny, though, how he can have this attitude like, I'm happy with my sex and I don't want to change it. And it's like, you know what? I think probably a pretty hefty majority of people are pretty happy with their sex and are not going to go through surgery to change it. It's probably a pretty tiny minority, relatively speaking, who would avail themselves of something that extreme in order to change their gender, right? Their actual physical sex. And so we're not talking about, I mean, I don't know what kind of public money we're talking about. I can't believe it's going to be that much. I mean, comparatively speaking, I'm pretty sure I can find other things that we spend money on that could cover that, because there's not a lot of people that are going to be in line for having their genitals, surgically altered in a crazy way. And when I say crazy, I just mean extreme. I don't mean like, these people are nuts or something. I understand that it's stressful to be stuck with something physically that you're not happy with. I get it. But they understand. I mean, how many people does he know that are just like vying for the surgery?
He probably doesn't know any trans people.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't. And if he does, they're not revealing themselves to him.
So it's such a minor thing. It's like, why would you make this, some kind of focal thing?
Yeah, but not only that, but the lack of empathy here is really stunning. I mean,
sure.
If you can, he seems incapable of understanding just how stressful and distressing it is. Sorry, hit the microphone there. For someone to feel like they're trapped in the wrong body, and for someone to even take the step of pursuing a surgical alteration like that. It's kind of like you were saying. This is not, an easy or a fast transition, and so people that do this, I mean, they have a real need for this. And, I think, like I said, the lack of compassion here for people who, are differently situated, let me put it that way, is just amazing.
Well, I think it's interesting because there was somebody that kind of helped, I think, in an empathetic way, point out how people can look at something like this. It's not quite to do with sex alteration, but it had to do with something that I had seen once, where there's like a disorder where people don't like their own limbs, like they don't like their arms and legs, and they want to have them amputated.
Right.
And some of these people do severe damage to themselves trying to cut their legs or arms off.
Yeah.
There was like a really crazy case where a doctor actually did amputate someone's legs because he was afraid the person would hurt themselves badly, and they had already tried and almost killed themselves like a couple times. And so he surgically removed their legs. In his argument from a medical ethics perspective was, if I don't do this safely, they're going to kill themselves trying. And they wouldn't get mental help, and for whatever reason, nobody was forcing them. So it was like a weird little case. But later, the guy did go and get help, and then he was sorry that he had his legs cut off, and then he sued the doctor. But the idea was, we were having a conversation about this, and somebody at the table said, it's really hard for me to understand how somebody could want to remove their limbs. Like what's in your head that makes you like hate your own limbs and think there's something wrong, you want to have them cut off. And someone else at the table said, well, think of it if you were born with like a third arm, and how you would want that third arm removed. That's how they feel about the arms or the legs that they have. And immediately I was like, I get it. I mean, I saw the people as mentally ill, and I had sympathy for them. But at that point, I really was like, I would seriously want that extra arm removed, like badly. if I went through life with it, it would just bother me, and I would always hate it and want it removed. And now I was like, okay, that's probably how they feel. And so when you're talking about this, it's like, as a woman, what if you woke up one day and you just had like this growth between your legs that you were just like, what the hell is that? And you would just be like, I don't know what that is. I want it gone. It'd be like the third arm, where you're just like, shouldn't be on my body. And it doesn't matter that you're comfortable with your genitals if somebody else isn't. This is what they're feeling like. And it's not okay. It's got to be really bothersome for somebody to be willing to go through major surgery to have this altered.
Yeah, definitely not something people just decide to do on a whim. Like, oh crap, I'm doing nothing next week. I think I'll have a sex change.
Yeah. Well, there's one other thing I wanted to get to real quick. This was on lienews.com, also known as Life News. This actually made my head explode. My head exploded, and I died.
Beth is talking to us today without a head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this is a story called The Libertarian Pro-Life Case Against Abortion.
Was this Rand? Like Paul Rand? Isn't he the one?
No, it's not him. It's by this woman named
But isn't he
Hawkins.
Libertarian pro-life?
Yeah, which I don't.
Yeah,
I
is.
do not get how that works. My head might explode again if I think about how that works. So there's a lot of crap in here, but the biggest thing, the thing that made my head explode, was the thought experiment that was used in this article. So there, before that, it's with legal abortion, the state discriminates against citizens based on a policy that creates two tiers of human beings, a superior class with rights and an inferior class without rights, based upon physical location, which I could completely turn that around and say, if you ban abortion, you create a superior class of fetuses that have rights and an inferior class of women that don't have rights.
Based purely on location.
Right. But, okay, consider this thought experiment. Say a child was delivered and taken home from the hospital, but then developed a rare condition requiring him to be placed back inside his mother for a short time so he could survive life-saving surgery. His mother willingly agrees, eager to save the life of her son. Was the child a citizen for the government to protect while outside of the womb, but as soon as he went back into his mother's womb for the surgery, was not?
They're missing the point.
I know. Yeah. I can't even...
The question I thought they were going to ask was, let's say that this put it back in her body procedure last 9 months. And after 3 months, she says, I can no longer endure this. Does she have a right then to say, I'm withdrawing consent?
I thought the experiment was going to be something like, should she be forced to take him back, to take the baby back in? And no, they completely glossed over that to say, oh, in the womb, did the government have the obligation to protect it? And then when it's ridiculous. It's completely missing the point. They are blind, absolutely blind to the issue of consent.
Right. I mean, it would be the same thing if they were to say this child needs some kind of, tissue, what do you call it? Like a tissue transplant or, some sort of a blood or tissue donation. And the mother says, I agree to it. And then they start prepping her for surgery, and she says, no, I can't do this. I can't go through with it. I'm sorry. I can't go under the knife. Does she have a right to change her mind, or they strap her to the gurney and make her do it because she willingly consented previously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, exactly.
Clearly, you can back away from that commitment.
Right.
You decide at the last minute you can't do it, then you can't do it. And if you decide somewhere in that procedure and you're able to withdraw consent, you can withdraw your consent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And... they set this up in a very deceptive way because they say in there that the mother willingly consents to having the child placed back in her body. It's like, well, duh, there's no issue. That's totally consistent with a pro-choice position. She consented.
Right. The question is, after she consents to it, though, does she then have a right to say later, look, I can't endure this anymore?
Yeah, and
I know my baby will die without my bodily contribution here, but I've done 3 months of it and I can't do it anymore. I love my baby, but I cannot sacrifice this any longer. I can't do it. Can she say, this has to stop, and I'm sorry that my child's body will not autonomously support itself without another body to sustain it? And I was, willing to try and help, but after 3 months of enduring, trying to help, I've realized that I can't do the 9-month stint.
Yeah.
So I have to, we have to reverse this.
Yeah.
In my mind, she has a right to reverse that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, it's the same as...
It is not her fault that the child has a condition that will not allow it to survive autonomously. It's not. Nature's a bitch.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And there are times, at some point we're all going to die. And there are points in our lives where we may not be able to autonomously, physically continue on. And when that happens, we may have medical, technical help that can see us through and give us some extra years. We may have some nice person who donates an organ or tissue or blood or something that allows us to go on and have some more years. Or we may not have that donor, or there may not be that technology. And so we will freaking die. And we didn't die because someone murdered us. We died because our bodies, at that point in our development, our lives, no longer would sustain us as an autonomous, living, biological entity. And when a child is developing in the womb, that is simply a natural reality. The mother didn't stab its organs to make them stop working. The baby has organs that don't work because that's a natural reality, right?
Yeah.
And she is not responsible for that. It's a natural freaking fact. A person whose body will not autonomously sustain it, that's its body. And if he's born with kidneys that don't work, it's still not her fault.
Right.
Still not her fault. If the kidneys fail at 5 years old, it's still not her fault. If she has a genetic freaking disorder that she knew about that causes kidney failure, it's still not her fault. And she still doesn't have to donate kidneys. And you still don't call her a murderess.
Right.
Yeah, so the fact that they put that in there, that just, it made my head explode. And then they go on, now you may ask, what about the rights of the mother? In a civil, libertarian-oriented society, all just laws are born out of the intersection of rights.
Sure.
When rights compete, a just law comes down in favor of the party that is the non-aggressor and is the most harmed. For example, I may have the right to punch my fist in the air, but when my knuckles connect with someone else's nose, that right gives way to the rights of the person who has just been assaulted.
Right, but the question then, when they're saying non-aggressor, what they need to understand is that I can sometimes violate someone's rights without meaning to, or without intent, right?
Right.
I can violate your rights without intent to do so. And when that happens, I am the aggressor. I am violating your rights. That infant that is inside the mother is the aggressor, right? It is not aggressing with intent, but it is aggressing. It has violated her bodily autonomy, I agree, without intending to, but it has stomped on her freaking toes, right? It has not gotten consent to use her body, and it is using her body. And so what they're saying is, if you're not proactively, imposing on someone's rights, then there's not this problem. The problem is the baby is imposing on her rights.
Yeah.
He did aggress. He didn't mean to. It's not his fault. Again, it's just a natural freaking bitch of nature that this is how gestation works. It is a natural imposition on her body, and it does impose on her rights. That is an undeniable reality.
Yeah, so they go on. Abortion pits a mother's rights against the rights of her preborn child. Even if one accepts that a pregnant woman experiences a temporary, partial loss of liberty, abortion permanently and totally deprives the human fetus of his or her right to life and consequentially liberty. Because the child stands to be killed by the mother's exercise of her rights, the preborn baby's right to life must trump all others. When the state steps in and favors the aggressor, as was done in Roe, it is a tyrannical injustice.
No, because the aggressor doesn't have the right to aggress. And so that's the problem. So what happens is, like, for example, if I'm in my house and I'm sleeping and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I hear somebody break in my front door, right? According to the state of Texas, I can kill you. Now, what if I kill you and the cops come and they're just like, oh my God, it's this retarded 12-year-old from across the street that you shot and killed? You know what? It's still, in Texas, it's still legal. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that the kid doesn't understand what he's doing. It doesn't matter that he had no intent to harm me. It matters that he violated my freaking property, and it's 3 a.m. And I woke up and I didn't know who was coming in my front door. And so the state says you don't have to try to figure out what's going on or assume the best. In a case where your life could be in danger and somebody could be threatening you, you have a right to go ahead and defend yourself. Where somebody violates your body, you have a right to defend your body. And it doesn't matter that the person didn't mean to. It doesn't matter that they didn't know what they were doing. It doesn't matter if there's a natural reality, which is this child is mentally impaired, that makes it so that they don't even know they're causing harm. The fact is, you don't violate that front door at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't care who you are, when I kill you, that is what the state says is legally acceptable.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't believe anybody that believes in castle doctrine, which is what that is, that the very act of a person trespassing in your home while you're there is perceived to be an aggressive act that deadly force can be used to stop. How can anybody that believes in castle doctrine be anti-choice? And they are, because those are mostly both conservative positions.
Well, not only that, but in this case, I believe they've got the definitions of the aggressor and basically the aggrieved party reversed here. They're basically calling the pregnant woman the aggressor, because if she withdraws consent to use her body and has an abortion, they've defined her as the aggressor. I disagree. I think that the fetus is the aggressor. The fetus is using her body, and the fetus's right to use her body depends on the mother's ongoing consent. And the moment she withdraws consent, then the fetus no longer has the right to use her body.
Yeah,
well, it's kind of like, I mean, you could use the same argument for example, if I were raped by someone who was incapable of judgment, you know what I mean? Like someone who was mentally impaired to the point that they really didn't understand and had problems grasping that what they were doing is wrong. It wouldn't make it okay, and it wouldn't mean that I can't defend myself. And if I killed that person to try and protect myself, I don't think anybody would say, well, but he didn't know, and you know, he's innocent because he didn't. I mean, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that I have to be raped.
Yeah, and people are going to have a problem with calling the fetus an aggressor or parasite because women do enjoy having kids a lot of the times. You know, they yearn for it if, they're infertile a lot of the time. And it's just so conditioned that, some people just want it with all their heart, with all their being. And their fulfillment is from this. And then another person's like, oh my God, get this parasite out of me.
Okay, but you've made a really good example before, Beth, when you talked about rape and the idea that, a person who has enjoyable sex with many people can still be raped. A person who allows many people into their home and is very hospitable can still have their home violated. When it's somebody that comes in that you didn't invite, when it's somebody that comes in when it's somebody that is having sex with you that you didn't agree to, that's when it becomes aggressive. That's when it's an aggressor. And it doesn't matter if the person that's perpetrating this is aware of it or can be blamed for it or not. That's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. It's the consent is what changes everything. The consent makes something moral or immoral. So, yeah, I have made that before.
And it was a good point that you made.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, and their only thing they're going to say to that is, Well, you consented to sex, so you consented to everything.
There you go. And there's the
Yes.
that is the freaking nut right there, because that's what it always comes down to, is you were a slut. You should have thought about, how you were going to have a kid for 18 years when you had sex, because clearly having sex is consent to paternity or maternity, which I completely disagree with. It's like saying that getting behind the wheel of your car is consent to have a freaking deadly auto accident. Nobody's thinking of that when they get in their car. Yes, we know it's dangerous to drive and you can die on the roads, but that doesn't mean that if we get into a deadly accident that, oh, well, you consented to. I mean, what did you think was going to happen when you got behind the wheel of your car? Of course you're going to get hit and die. We're not sending an ambulance. Whatever. You knew that before you started driving. Shouldn't have got on the road.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's the thing. That's the very thing. They just... Sex is just so horrible to them. And you cannot reject the things that sex gives you. You cannot reject your birthright. You cannot reject what you are for as a woman.
But the point is, here's the reality. If you could nail a person to the wall for having sex, it wouldn't matter at what stage of development the child was. In other words, if I owe that child my body because, quote, I had sex, then when my kid is 5 years old and his kidneys are failing, guess what? I owe him a kidney because I had sex. It doesn't stop when you're not carrying the kid in your womb. If the reason you're obligated to that child's life, if his body won't autonomously naturally sustain itself, is because you had sex, that should go on till the kid's 18 at least.
And that's why this is always sexist, because this burden they say that you consent to by having sex is only carried by women.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. But the fact is, after birth, is the kid not your responsibility? Well, you still had sex. You knew the kid was going to be 5 years old one day if it didn't die. You had sex. You knew this kid would be 5. You knew you'd end up with a 5-year-old. How the hell do you stop being responsible for it the moment it comes out of the womb?
Yeah, I know.
Completely inconsistent. It is the most inconsistent logic applied. It's absolutely frustrating how completely inconsistent their logic is.
I know, and that's one that's just hell to argue with them. So, all right. Well, we're well over an hour now. Got some good stories in, some good ranting. Anybody got anything else they want to add?
No, just I'm actually working on an article. I'll probably post it on the Atheist Experience blog. Well, I definitely will, actually, because it has to do with the email I got about a week and a half ago, I guess, from a guy who I think he thought he was trying to pay me a compliment or something. But anyway, I've got his email, a response that I sent to him, and then some follow-up traffic. And I guess the subject of this is going to be benign sexism.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people think it's only sexist if you say something negative about someone. But benign sexism is a problem, too. It's when you think you're paying someone a compliment, but in fact you're focusing on a stereotypical characteristic, and your so-called compliment tends to reinforce those stereotypes.
Sure, like saying, "Wow, I'm like black people can sure dance well."
Yeah, exactly.
They're so good at basketball, and you're just like, "What the hell?" And there are people who think that if you say something that is perceived to be a compliment or positive, that suddenly it's not racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Benevolent sexism, I think I've heard it called as well.
Yeah, that's another term for benevolent sexism or whatever. But it's it's not just something that is harmful to women. It's harmful to men as well, because there are some very sexist assumptions contained in it that cast men in a particular role that not every man, chooses to put himself in. Mm-hmm. So Anyway.
And another form of benevolent something or other that we get a lot is, oh my gosh, you all are such smart Americans. I can't believe there's, this little bit of reason in this sea of Texas and America. And, you're so much smarter than everybody else over there.
Yeah, I didn't think there were intelligent people in Texas.
Yeah, I hate that shit too when I see it on the list. It really, yes, we talk about these people who say things like, well, I like being a boy from Georgia and, sticking his dick out the window at 90 miles an hour in Tennessee. But that doesn't mean everybody there is stupid or that it's necessarily more stupid on the whole. Yeah, there's education problems and stuff, and I'll talk about those. But, oh my God, don't insult. I can insult my home. You shouldn't, especially if you're a European emailing the Atheist Experience to tell us how we're so much smarter than all those other stupid Americans.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, I got that in there. I've been wanting to get that in there for a while.
There you go.
Also, don't email us to ask us how we could have been so stupid before when we were theists and how we could have believed all that stupid shit. If you've been an atheist all your life, go read some deconversion stories and some biographies of religious people and things about indoctrination, and don't expect, we'll talk to you about, how deconversion and indoctrination and all that stuff happens, but please do not email us something insulting about, oh my God, I can't believe you believed all that stupid stuff all your life.
Well, yeah, and there's really no excuse for this level of ignorance right now because there are some great stories out there. There's Dan Barker's story. There's Seth Andrews' book. There's Marlene Winnell.
Jerry DeWitt's book's coming out in
Jerry
June.
DeWitt's book is going to come out.
Wait.
Yeah, there are so many people out there that have written so many great things about, their deconversion stories, about the trauma that religious people have, when they try to basically deal with their indoctrination, the problems it causes. There's just no excuse for being that ignorant. So, theists aren't stupid.
Yeah, and
they're as much victims as anyone else who's been indoctrinated in something that's really harmful.
Yeah, and I've been reading a lot of the, ex-Mormon and ex-Scientologist and other ex-cult books, and a lot of these people have not become public atheists, and they may not be atheists. Some of them end up sort of deistic and stuff. But if you really read about, how this hardcore indoctrination goes, you will start to understand what actually happens in cults and in hardcore religion.
Well, you know what? There is one thing I want to bring up that I had brought up on some other programs that I want to mention. And it was Catherine Stewart. Her presentation at the Atheist Convention was amazing on the Good News Club. And one of the lines that she said, I had started talking about this little thing where, religion has the best PR machine ever. It's like, how do they break something and then, get to be the PR machine then says that they're the best thing ever. They ruin something and then it's like, oh, they're the saviors of it. It's like, how do they do that?
Not only that, they're the only fix for it.
Yeah. Well, what she said, she said a line, or she said a quote that I thought was just amazing, which was, if they can't own it, they break it.
Yep.
And that summed it up so perfectly. Everything that they get their hand, if there's something that competes with them, they're going to own it or they're going to break it. They will shred it down if it has any competition. They'll shred the public schools. They'll shred science. They'll shred health care and welfare, like anything that gives you any kind of security that they think the church should be giving you. They're going to shred it. And one of the things that was interesting about the convention, the Austin American-Statesman ran an article on the front page of the Metro section, like I think it was the Thursday before, or the Thursday when the convention started, I guess that evening. And they talked about a consortium, I guess, of some of the local pastors who wanted to meet with the atheist, quote, leadership that was having the convention here in Austin. One of the Baptist ministers was quoted as saying something like, we felt like it was a good opportunity to meet with these atheist leaders and talk to them and have an open dialogue and share opinions and views, you know. And so we just thought this was a great opportunity because they're here in Austin for us to do that, right? Yeah. The Atheist Community of Austin is in Austin all the time. Yeah. We have some prominent people in the atheist community connected with our board of directors. You know, right here in Austin, we're here constantly. So I don't know why this Baptist minister thought that the Atheist Convention was, you know, I say that facetiously because I know exactly why he thought it. The fact is, Baptists hold a Baptist convention, right, annually, where they talk about the regulations, the rules, how they're running the churches. And churches here in Austin meet weekly, right? These pastors who want to talk to atheists, they're meeting every week, and ACA is right here in Austin. Yeah. And they have these congregations that they talk to. If they want to have a public dialogue, boy, they've got a whole church full of people. And one of the interesting things was when Dave Silverman at the end of the convention said, maybe next year we'll have enough atheists at the meeting to fill one megachurch, right? Yeah. And of course it's a joke, but it's true. You know, we could hardly pack a megachurch with the number of atheists that attended the American Atheist Convention. That's how popular Christianity is on any street corner. And so you've got all these churches, these mega churches, right? I mean, we have to install stoplights here in Austin in order to control the traffic coming in and out on a Sunday morning every time they build one, right? You get a new intersection with a new traffic light that is just there because of a church parking lot that is crazy big.
Which, by the way, they don't pay any property taxes to help support. So it's all the other taxpayers that are...
Well, they're doing God's work, right? So anyway, they decided that even though they meet weekly, and even though they have a National Baptist Convention annually, and even though there's an Atheist Community of Austin right here in town that they could invite to their theistic meetings anytime they would like to have an opportunity for dialogue, they decided the Atheist Convention was the good opportunity for theistic dialogue with atheists, right? And I want to talk about how much bullshit that is, okay? Because if you're serious about wanting to dialogue with atheists, you could do it anytime, anywhere you want, on your own time and your own turf. But you know what? You're not going to have an atheist come and talk at your church. And you're not going to have that open dialogue in front of your freaking membership where you're going to potentially not look so good at the end of that conversation.
Tracie?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the preachers that was on that panel, me and Matt went to his church on Sunday and out to dinner yesterday. And there is potentially something in the works, a debate or discussion.
That's a good thing. And I'm glad that's happening because I'm not happy with the idea that of all the religious venues that they have available, I can't turn on my TV on Sunday morning without seeing some local church having services. And I can't tell you how many times I've never seen an atheist talk and give a lecture at one of those, Sunday morning meetings. And so if they're willing to do that, that's great. I just find it real disingenuous that of all the years and of all the weekly meetings that they've been holding and all the Baptist conventions that have been held, that the one time they decided it was a great opportunity for religion to be, publicly debated and discussed and, publicly talked about was at a convention that was not religious. Yeah. And I don't think that's an accident. I'm glad if they're going to have something like that and they're willing to have an atheist come and talk to their congregation about atheism. That would be really awesome, especially if it's a Baptist doing it. But I really was offended at the idea that they would say that, 900 atheists can't get together without having religion somewhere in there. Yeah. When they have religion 24/7 on the airwaves, in the meeting halls, in the the conventions, on the billboard, like everywhere, and not a hat tip to atheism. But as soon as atheists get together to have a convention, religion needs to be there.
Yeah.
That's when religion has to be, talked about.
Well, and they did the same thing when we had our billboard up. They had, Don Rhodes out there talking about the billboard and what we were trying to do. But then, of course, they had to interview some local religious leaders because, the atheists can't do anything without having some religious person comment on it.
Because let me tell you, when they put up religious billboards here in Austin, nobody's ever asked me to come and talk about what I think about it.
Yeah, we never get contacted by the press asking us for our response to this.
That's the thing. Religion they have to own it, right? They got to be there. They got to be given their opinion. They've got to be invited, or they want to break it.
Yeah.
But thank you, Beth, for the tip. I look forward to it. I'm very interested. Please keep me posted.
Oh, I will. I'll keep everybody posted. He actually wrote on his blog about how he hung out with 2 atheists last night. Oh, we had really good talk.
Can I ask if it's a Baptist?
It's not the Baptist.
Hello?
It's not the Baptist.
I don't need a name or anything specific about the person or anything.
Okay.
But if he's blogging about it, I assume he's open.
I'll tell you off air.
Okay. I don't mean to push. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put in the
No,
spot.
that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we about done here?
Yep.
It's a good hour and a half show. We're getting back into it. It's awesome. All right. Well, this has been the Godless Bitches. You can contact us at bitches@atheist-community.org. This is Beth signing off.
This is Jen. Good night.
This is Tracie saying night.